Hi, my name is Courtney Robinson. I'm in group 1 and I'm doing my report on Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Okay, men are born free but are everywhere in chains. This idea came from the Swiss philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques was born on June 28, 1712 in Geneva, which is now known as present-day Switzerland. Rousseau's mother died 9 days after he was born, so until the age of 10 he was raised primarily by his father. By the age of 3, he was reading French novels with his father. His love and passion for music was developed through contact with his aunt. At the age of 10, Rousseau's father fled the country of Geneva in order to avoid imprisonment. His formal education came to a halt at the age of 13, when he was sent away to be a watchmaker. Later, he found himself locked outside the city gates and was forced to face the world with no money, belongings, or any obvious talent. In 1728, he found himself in France at the house of Louise Eleanor, and he lived under her roof off and on for 13 years and was dominated by her influence. Rousseau's success started with his composing of 2 operas, Les Muses Galantes and Les Devines du Village. His most important contribution was the social contract. In this book was Rousseau's ideas on the government and how they should rule over the people. This proposes a contract between the authorities and the governed. This gives power mostly to the people by making it up to them to follow their leaders as long as their leaders kept their part and promised them that their rights, property, and happiness were protected. It was a mutual agreement because he believed that this would encourage obedience to authority as long as they kept their promises. If these promises were not kept by the government, then the contract was broken and the governed were free to choose another set of governors or magistrates. The knowledge of this would ensure that the government would keep the civilians safe in fear of losing their position. He was famous for a lot of his essays, but one in particular, called Discourse on the Moral Effects of the Arts and Science, gave the idea that the more we progress in the arts and sciences, the more corrupt we become. It has resulted in the moral degradation in humanity. He argues that civilization has robbed us of our natural freedom. A lot of the ideas of Rousseau were implemented in our country's Declaration of Independence. His new radical ideas had a tremendous effect on his society and is even present in our teaching today. I think that a lot of his ideas have to do with the relationship between the student and the teacher regarding education. He believed that experience is the best teaching method, that a lesson based loosely around the given curriculum will be effective because of the teachings of nature. He also believed that if the contract he proposed was followed, it would assure obedience to authority. This provides a more comfortable environment where students get to let the teacher know how they would like to be taught by giving their own insight. As long as both parties kept their ends of the deal, then they would both respect each other equally. That way, the student does not feel intimidated and the teacher can hear the student's insights and come up with the best teaching method that will be effective to that specific class. Rousseau taught that teachers should never preach or sermonize to a child. He did not think that this type of teaching was effective. This causes the student to have less respect for the teacher and they have no motivation to learn. He believed in learning from verbal instruction along with significant learning experiences. Instead of reading directly from the manual, he sees it important to come up with real-life experiences and really study on how to relate to the class as a whole, depending on their age group. I personally like the emphasis that Rousseau gives on the students. I know that as a student, I enjoy when teachers are concerned with the relationship with the class and when they genuinely care about the thoughts and feelings of the students. Teachers that aren't able to do that are not as effective overall. Teachers need to be flexible. For example, when a discussion goes over time and takes up the whole class period, I think that a teacher should let it happen as long as the children are learning and growing from it. There's a philosophy called tool learning, which gives teachers the opportunity to plant an idea in their students' minds and then let them figure out how to apply it and requisite facts as they become necessary to their experience. Rousseau argued against too much teaching out of books and not enough natural experience to inform young minds. I agree and think that sometimes students will just do the bare minimum when learning and figure out what exactly will be covered on tests instead of really pondering the information on their own and actually learning instead of memorizing. We can learn a lot from every subject, and it is important for the student to realize that it can always be applied to them. I think that it is important to have discussions and let the student come up with their own ideas instead of sticking to every idea they're reading from a textbook. And the last quote is by Rousseau is, "The world of reality has its limits. The world of imagination is boundless."